Thank you everyone for your attendance today. My name is Nicole Orlino. I'm an admissions officer here for the online programs of applied learning at Johns Hopkins University Bloomberg School of Public Health. Today we'll be discussing our spatial analysis program. Joining us today will be Dr. Frank Curriero, Director of the Spatial Analysis Program, and Tim Shield, Associate Scientist. I am very excited to be presenting with these two today. Frank, I'll let you introduce yourself first.
Welcome, everybody, and thank you, Nicole. Like Nicole said, my name is Frank Curriero. I co-direct the program here on spatial analysis. My background is in statistics, and for the last 20 plus years, I've been focusing on spatial analysis applications here at the School of Public Health, and I'm excited to share some of that with you today.
Perfect. Tim, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Sure, thanks, Cole. So I'm Tim Shields. My background is more from geography. And for the last 20 some years, I've been doing, GIS and public health applications and working with Frank on projects big and small and curriculums. So.
Perfect. Thank you, Frank and Tim, for your introductions. To give everyone an idea of what we will be covering today, Frank will take us over the industry overview, really discussing why there was a need for the specific program and to give you an idea of who the program is targeted towards. He will also be going over the program details and curriculum to give you an insight on what skill sets you'll gain and what sets our curriculum apart from other programs. Our program is fully online, so we will give you an idea as to what online learning is like at Johns Hopkins University. Faculty will be highlighted as well. As for myself, I will go into admissions requirements, tuition and financial aid, and details about the scholarship we offer. We will save time for a Q&A at the end, so please feel free as you listen to the presentation to type out any questions you have into the chat box, and we will cover those at the end with Frank and Tim. Thank you so much for your time, and Frank and Tim, please feel free to start.
Great, thank you, Nicole. So let's go ahead and get started. So let's just simply start out with what is spatial analysis. It could mean different things to different people, but basically it's the interpretation of geographic information through the use of mapping software and statistical analysis. And I've got some emphasis on that last piece about and statistical analysis, because maybe that's not always the piece that's included in a lot of other programs. Our program builds on the foundations in epidemiology and biostatistics, and we take a comprehensive view of spatial analysis, of what we'll call spatial science here at the school, because it includes components of spatial data, geographic information systems, and spatial statistics. And a lot of programs out there, sort of what sets our program apart more is this component of spatial statistics. So as you'll learn in the program, there's a lot of effort getting to the map and getting the spatial data and getting it mapped in a geographic information system software, but then analyzing those patterns and interpreting those map layers through the use of specialized statistical tools from the field of spatial statistics is a component we include in our program, and it really sets us apart from a lot of other programs across the country and across the world. Next slide, please. So spatial analysis started way back when in 1854 with the famous John Snow's cholera map. John Snow was an epidemiologist, a well-known epidemiologist at the time, and also at that time, cholera was thought to be an airborne pathogen. And John Snow realized that in London, where there was an outbreak of cholera, he actually mapped it. And that's what you see here on the left-hand side, and then blown up a little bit more on the right-hand side. And he noticed that a lot of the cases of cholera were clustering around a water pump. So people would go to a water pump at this time and get their household drinking water and cooking water. And he noticed a lot of cases were clustering around that pump. He got rid of that pump, and that clustering of cases went away. And that sort of started the whole paradigm, not only of, hey, mapping and maps can help in public health, but that cholera really was a waterborne disease and not airborne, which was going against a lot of the current opinions at the time. So a very famous example. Next slide, please. Well, if we fast forward, God, almost 2 centuries, Tim and I are now working on projects that are related to malaria, for example, where we're mapping malaria risk in southern Zambia, in Zambia, in southern Africa. And we can do this for data that's collected over both a dry season and a rainy season. You see examples of these products here. And what we're also showing you, not only can we produce a map of predicted malaria risk at the household level and then map that, but we also produce maps of risk uncertainty. So quantifying our uncertainty in the estimated predicted risks. Next slide. You see, when Tim and I first got started in this, and again, this is going back 20 years, getting spatial data and having access to spatial data was somewhat limited, in the 90s and the early 2000s. But in the last 10, 15 plus years, the availability and accessibility of spatial information has really exploded, and it's now available to a lot of not just agencies and companies, but individuals as well. And you can see the use of maps and spatial information or geographic information, use those terms interchangeably throughout the media, and a lot of different agencies are using maps to convey information that they want out in the general public or to their customers or to their readership. Some quick examples, the CDC, puts out the flu view, which is just, tracking the flu every week during flu season, and you see some examples of that above. And just to give you a different example, this was an article posted in the New York Times about endangered species and the stuff we buy, or mapping all that out. And it's not just about a certain health outcome. It could be the environment, the health of the environment, the health of a species that we rely on, for environmental health throughout the world, and tracking that chain of custody from when we buy something all the way back to what that possibly impacts that possibly had on the environment. Next slide. But probably the most profound example, at least in my lifetime, of displaying of spatial information is the Johns Hopkins University COVID-19 dashboard map. Everybody's probably seen this. This has gained such popularity and has been so influential throughout the pandemic. And we can spend a whole lecture going over the information in here and the impact it's had on the world, and not just the US, on the world, and how many people rely on this information and how insightful that information has been by viewing it on a map. And again, I don't want to spend too much time on this because we can spend the whole hour on this if we wanted to. But just to make the point here, at its bare bones, this is very simple. This is just a posting of the data, a posting of the information and mapping it, posting it in a way so that we map it. And you can see how powerful a map can be with this example. But then maybe taking data from here and going beyond the map, using tools from the field of spatial statistics to analyze patterns, analyze that spread. And those are some of the interesting features that we like to bring to our program. But this COVID dashboard map is probably one of the most, if not the most prominent display, influential display of geographic information. Next slide, please. So why spatial analysis? Well, the government tells us the market is growing, almost at an annual rate of 35%. And this idea about technology, and it's not just about, oh, here's spatial information, can you go and map it? Like I said before, the availability and accessibility of spatial information has really exploded. Everybody now has a GPS. Everybody now has, ways for tracking and directions and all these kind of things, and on their smartphone, what's near me, all these kind of things. And there's technology for that. And that technology is continuing to increase, making all this information that's readily available for us. There's also demand for this availability of not just the data, but more consistent, accurate, complete data. Okay. And at the more at the neighborhood level, which is really becoming so important for a lot of what we want to do in terms of analyzing geographic information. Next slide. This was an interesting article, a really catchy title. What gets measured gets done, and you can't overstate that that sentiment. Hopkins was the spatial analysis program was at Hopkins was the first online program that they decided to venture in, and they didn't just pick that out of a hat. They went and did a survey of a lot of the health departments, health agencies, CDC, FDA, all these other agencies, state, local, and nationwide, in terms of what are their needs. So they went and they asked leaders at these agencies and said, what is there a need out there for your employees? And spatial analysis kept coming up as a needed component or needed expertise in their employees. So that led to us developing the spatial analysis program. And so there's also, this article talks about that leaders recognize an urgent need for more timely, more accurate, specific spatial data, geographic data, and not just at the state level or the region level, but getting down to the neighborhood, or what we hear sometimes is called the census tract level, to efficiently and effectively address some of the most pressing problems in public health. Next slide, please. So there are a number of careers that people can go for after coming out of our master's program here. Those career paths can be both narrowly focused or more encompassing. So spatial analysis for public health can be used among other traditional public health careers. So you can look at it in a sense of like an added benefit. You might be an expert, you might have expertise in infectious disease, but now you want to add spatial analysis to that. Or you're an expert in chronic disease, HIV, AIDS, or something like that, at cancer, and you want to add on to, now I can, map and analyze spatial data. So a lot of times it could be an added component, but also could steer you in a different direction as well. So some possible job titles that we've thought about after coming out with a degree from Hopkins in spatial analysis: environmental health officer, GIS software developer, geographic information scientist, cartographer, visualization specialist, geospatial data administrator, spatial statistician. Next slide, please. We also tracked some of our alumni. The program is now 5 years in, and we've had some very many successful alumni getting jobs as statisticians, GIS data analysts, epidemiologists. Some have taken this, some that were already faculty or doing a PhD program along with our master's program, went on to be faculty at various universities. Public sector institutions, people getting jobs at CDC, Department of Homeland Security. One was the Public Health Institute tracking in California, Washington State Health Care Authority. There's also a lot of private sector ones, utility companies, big data institutes have been hiring our alumni. And even within CDC, we have a couple stationed within CDC that are working in sustainable energy and health, oncology. You can see these up here: global burden of disease, water and air quality, and patterns of health disease. So there are a lot of places, a lot of opportunities where our alum have been finding successful outlets to utilize their spatial analysis skills. Next slide, please. I'll give you some program details on the curriculum. It's like Nicole said, it's 100% online. It's part-time. It's more skills-based orientation for working professionals. So this is less so on, hey, read these 30 pages, we're going to have an exam. A lot of it is group learning, peer assessment, and it's more skills oriented. So it's projects, it's examples, it's problem sets. It's a lot of hands-on learning rather than a 100 multiple choice question or something like that to assess evaluation. Our goal, our focus, is to prepare students to address public health problems through multidisciplinary approaches that apply the latest scientific knowledge. And I think a lot of jobs nowadays are more multidisciplinary than they've been in the past 20, 30, 40, 50 plus years. Everybody is overlapping and collaborating with partners and so forth. We have two programs in spatial analysis. One is a 2 years master's, that's 15.5 credits, and the other is a certificate in spatial analysis that is only 18 credits, and a certificate can take you 1 year. The master's students and their certificate students share the same courses. So there's not different courses. It's just that the certificate students usually come in with an epidemiological and biostatistical background already. So they don't want to take those classes, and then they would just take the spatial classes that we have offered. And I can show you a little bit about the curriculum here in the next slide. So, this spells out the 2-year curriculum in the master's, and I'm not going to read off every course here. This information is all available online and in these slides. But there are 4 primary spatial classes that we teach, right? So if you look at year 1, spatial analysis for public health, and then Hopkins is split up into quarters rather than semesters, right? So you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4 quarters a term. So quarters 1 and 2 end before the holiday break, the December holiday break, and in quarters 3 and 4 take us from January to May. And in each term, you will have a primary course and then more of one of these supporting courses or supplemental courses. So like in year 1, quarter 1, spatial analysis for public health. Year 1, quarter 2, spatial data technologies for health. So these 2 courses combine to teach you not only the mapping software, but also the technology to go out and get the data and bring that data into that GIS mapping software. So it speaks to the spatial data GIS components of spatial analysis. And then you can see in quarter 3 of the first year, there's an intro to EPI class, and in quarter 4, a public health statistics class. So now you're starting to be introduced to your EPI and your biostatistics. And we also have a lab class in the end of your year 1, quarter 4, which kind of keeps people working in spatial analysis. It's just a 2-credit class. Then in year 2, you continue to follow up with your biostatistics. So there'll be 2 biostatistics classes, public health statistics 1 and 2. And then in quarter 2 of your second year, you follow up with your second epidemiology class. And then we bring you back and start doing spatial statistics. So in term 3 of year 2, we have an applied spatial statistics course and also a journal club course that goes hand in hand with that course. And then in term 4, you have what's called a spatial applications class. This is very much an activity-based class where students are going off and doing a lot of their own analysis. And we're here to guide and support you through that analysis. And then we end with an integrative activity. The integrative activity is synonymous to the capstone or a master's thesis you see in other programs. We call it here an integrative activity because another component that separates us from other programs out there is we allow students in the master's program to bring in their own data, bring in their own problem, and use that as this culminating experience, this integrative activity. So that's usually a big selling point for our program. So people that are already working in the field or might know of an exciting application, and they can get hands on that data either through some personal connections or through their professional connections. They're allowed to bring that data in and work on that as part of their integrative activity. But students who don't, we supply different data sets for them to work from. That is the 2 years master's program. I apologize, it's a lot to put on and talk about in one slide. Just to end this one, the comment to make here is that the certificate students, they take the same spatial classes, but they can take them all in one sequence of a year. So they take spatial analysis for public health, spatial data technologies in terms 1 and 2, and then in terms 3 and 4, they take the applied statistics courses and the spatial applications courses. The certificate students don't need to do this integrative activity or this culminating experience, and it's only 18 credits for the certificate students. All this information is available online, and we can make that available to you. Next slide, please. Okay, more pictures of us, right? So you heard from me. You will hear from Tim in a little bit. Some other players in this program. Elizabeth Gollop, she actually directs the entire OPAL program, not just one program. But Elizabeth and Derek Ning, they teach the EPI classes. John McGreedy, he does the biostat classes, and Aruna Chandran, she teaches a lot of these supporting classes. I didn't go over them too much, but they're public health seminars, and it really kind of exemplifies the breadth and depth of spatial analysis in public health and public health in general. So those are really interesting courses to be exposed to. Next slide, please. So our spatial analysis class has been in business for 5 years. However, Hopkins itself has a long history of online learning where we're supplying online courses and online curriculum for the students that were here on site. So we have over 20 years of experience in online learning. The courses that are developed, you'll see they're developed with high production value. Okay. There's a lot of online course activities that keep students engaged throughout the program. And everything we do, the lectures, what's called live talks and other activities, these are all recorded, okay? And they're provided for you for access to whenever you want. So it really increases the flexibility of our program. And there's a 24/7 help desk for online learning and any issues that students may run into. Next slide. So we have this great platform here at the school. It's called Course Plus. And this is not just for the online students that are in the OPAL programs like spatial analysis that you're considering now, but it's also used for the students that are here on site. And although everybody is remote right now, but next year, hopefully we get back to having both online and on site. It's called Course Plus. It's the learning management tool that will be used throughout the program. The platform, as Tim is going to give you sort of a live demonstration here in a minute, provides you a week-by-week overview of the course material. So this is the place you go to get everything, to get the lectures, to download the lectures, to listen to them, to download the assignments and the problem sets and different activities, to upload your homework or take quizzes, all these kind of things, to interact with the faculty. There is something called a discussion forum, which is so ideal because you can just go on a discussion forum and post questions or comments, and then everybody else sees that and everybody else is encouraged to reply to that. So other students will reply to that, and really helps students network within one another. And then faculty and also our teaching assistants as well monitor the discussion forum, and we'll chime in and provide feedback to questions as well. So I will stop there and I'll hand it off to my colleague Tim Shields, which will now give you a live demonstration of Course Plus.
Great, thanks, Frank. Make sure this pops up here. Okay, can you see my screen there?
Not yet. It's say it started. There we go.
Looking at the Course Plus. All right, there we have it. Okay, well, great. And let me ask Nicole real quick. I have some button that came up about attendees, but is everything looking good? Everybody's connected?
So far, yes.
Mm-hmm. We'll assume so. Great. Okay, so well, Frank gave you a nice overview of how Course Plus is set up. It's really the conduit between all things about the course and the students. There's just the welcome page. And let me just slide this out of the way here. And let me just show you the main components. I mean, there'd be a lot of information on the syllabus. We'll click there. Content is what Frank was talking about, with all lecture materials, all data files, all assignments were posted here. And these are a lot of these communication tools. And I guess we'll just highlight, there's that discussion forum, which I don't want to go into now because it has the live discussion with the students, but this is where the cafeteria or the lunch table where everybody gets together and exchanges thoughts and ideas. And then, of course, the resources will be also important. Online library has all data, all files loaded here, and we'll touch on Dropbox in a second. But I think the meat of this, we'll see the syllabus page, just to show you that all the, let's get to the overview here. My system is not updating, but our syllabus page is just going to have the overview of all things about the course, all the contact information, as well as the objectives, the aims, the software information, all the information that, you know, is the introductory stuff about how the course is going to be run. That will be found there. Let me go to the content page and see if this. Apologize, my screen is not popping up here.
Yeah, your video is frozen too, Tim. I don't know if that has something to do with it.
Let's see. Well, let me see if I can turn my video off. That might help some bandwidth. Interesting. It looks like my computer is totally frozen here, Frank.
Well, just let's continue to talk through. This is the welcome page for Course Plus, and like Tim was saying, you see the tabs across the top. Syllabus, content, communication, resources. It's all really there, and it's like I said, it's not only do faculty go there multiple times a day. I'm sure students are going there multiple times a day. Like I said, to get everything, but not only to retrieve everything, but to upload all your stuff as well. But then the communication part with the discussion forum is something that is so powerful and so useful for us. And I mean, we would see discussion forums that go on for pages and pages. Like somebody will ask a question, and then there'll be 3 or 4 students that follow up with that, and then the person that asked the question will continue to follow up with that, and so it really gets sort of like an embedded tree. And what's also nice with the Course Plus is you could download that whole communication set within one PDF. And a lot of instructors will organize the discussion forum. So you will have like assignment 1, assignment 2, assignment 3, general comments about the course, and so forth. So it's really a great place to communicate, not only to and from the instructors, but among your peers as well.
So Frank, apologies. My for whatever reason, my screen is not even changing pages between them. I believe I'm in an area of not the best connectivity today, and I think I'm a victim of a poor connection here.
That's fine. Nicole,
So the screen's not coming through, but is the audio okay there, Frank?
Yeah, the audio is coming through fine. So maybe we'll just go back to the slides and finish up the webinar so we can get to the Q&A.
No worries there. Thanks, Tim and Frank. So in regards to when we're taking a look now at our admissions requirements, so I'll go over a few. So all of our applications are processed online through Sophus and Sophus Express to streamline your application. For our master's degree, the application is done through Sophus and the certificate application is done through Sophus Express. Other requirements for education are a minimum of a bachelor's degree from a regionally accredited college or university. We do look for candidates to have sufficient prior quantitative coursework or alternative evidence of quantitative ability. We do require a current resume or CV to be uploaded into the online portal. The letters of recommendation requirement are 1 for the certificate and 3 for the master's. The statement of purpose is going to be a big part of our application process. This is where you will be able to communicate to the admissions committee why you are pursuing this program, what you hope to gain from it, and what your ultimate career goals are. For our international students, if English is not your first language, you may need an English proficiency exam. We do accept either the TOEFL or the IELTS. For those who have obtained their education outside of the United States, it is a requirement that you undergo a course-by-course credential evaluation via World Education Services. We do encourage you to start this credential evaluation early to gather any required documents and to make sure that evaluation is done in a timely manner. Looking over at the admissions information, our applications are reviewed on a rolling basis, meaning you do not need to wait until the deadlines posted on the slide to hear back from the committee with your decision. Our applications are now open for the fall of 2021. We do encourage students to apply early so you can receive your decision earlier and start preparing for that upcoming term. The application deadline to apply for the master's is going to be June 1st, and our certificate deadline is July 1st. We do only enroll once per year, so this is important to know if you are excited about this program and are ready to apply. To provide insight on the kind of investment you'll be making, we've listed our financial information here, as well as some information about the financial aid office. Pending board approval, the current school year tuition is $1,233 per credit. We do offer a partial OPAL scholarship that covers $474 per credit, which leaves students responsible for that remaining $759 per credit. This scholarship is specific funding to our OPAL programs, which is our online programs of applied learning. If you are admitted into the program, you are automatically awarded the OPAL scholarship. There is nothing additional you need to do in order to receive it. So if you are planning financially, you will want to plan for that $759 per credit at the current tuition rate. Of course, keeping in mind our tuition rate and scholarships are reassessed each spring, and any changes will be updated on the website. As promised, we did save some time for Q&A, so I'll direct these questions to Frank and Tim, of course. Can you elaborate on the integrative activity and give an example of what has been done in the past?
Sure. Well, so let me talk a little bit about the integrative activity. It has two components to it. One is called the proposal component. So we want all students that either have their data or would have liked to have their data write one standalone proposal about how you would analyze that, data. And so that's one part of the integrative activity. Then the second part is the actual analysis part. So students who actually have the data can continue following through of their proposal and to do that. And then students that don't have access to their data, they would put their proposal aside, and then they would go retrieve one of what we call our design projects. And then they would follow through with just the analysis, no proposal writing, just the analysis of that, what we call those design projects. I'll let Tim weigh in on a couple examples that we've had in terms of integrative activities in the past.
Sure. Yeah, and just to kind of piggyback on Frank's comments first, a lot of students are very interested in their own research topic, but oftentimes we see that when it comes time to actually get the data and start processing it, that the data can't be used or can't be accessed, or all kinds of data issues. So that's why we have backup of other data sets we can supply in those situations. But in terms of students, I know a lot of stuff about opioids was big, and people were a couple students were mining opioid data via Twitter and pulling down Twitter information with location ID and mapping it and linking that to other variables. I know there's other overdose, or actually the overdose clinic accessibility throughout, I think it was South Carolina or North Carolina, South Carolina, I believe, and access to clinic care and how that relates to number of cases and trends of that nature. I don't know, Frank, we want to talk about any of the canned stuff or the pre-planned stuff that we put out there, but
we have one on air pollution. We have one on food desert mapping and creating a food desert map, and the other one is opened up with a lot of reported health cases per census tract, actually in the state of Texas. We've had other ones on predicting water quality. We have air quality integrative activities. So those are pretty varied. Every year we always get a handful of ones that we've never seen before. But like I said, like Tim and I were saying, it's a great opportunity for students to bring in their own data and follow through with that if they can.
Right.
Thank you. Ideally, what quantitative coursework do you look for students to have?
It depends on if you're going into the certificate or the master's. If you're going into the certificate program, we want to see that students have had biostatistics courses up to and including regression analysis. So not just linear regression, but logistic regression and Poisson regression. For the master's students, you will have those courses, those graduate level courses on regression analysis, linear Poisson and logistic regression. Coming into the course, we just want to see students with it's nice when we see applications with a stat class or two on there. That doesn't mean if you've never had a stat class that you make it in the program. People that have quantitative experience doesn't always show up in a stat or a math class. So there are undergraduate or other courses in epidemiology and other fields, finance and so forth, that bring in quantitative skills. So we like to make sure we evaluate students on a case-by-case basis in terms of their quantitative skills. But what I just said are some of the skills that we teach in the program. We want to make sure students are successful when they reach those components of our program.
Perfect. What software or applications
And I may
are...
add into that, Frank. Often,
Go ahead, Tim.
oh, sorry, I was going to add to Frank's comments that sometimes this quantitative experience is exhibited through their professional experience as well. So it's not always strictly from a transcript, but it can also be from their work experience.
Jeff. What software or applications are heavily used, and do you recommend having prior knowledge before starting the program?
So I'll let Tim start with the GIS software.
Okay, so for GIS, we use ArcGIS Pro. We had been using ArcGIS Desktop, but now in the last few years, we've migrated over to ArcGIS Pro. No experience is needed at all. Everybody, some people do come with experience, but which is great. But we start from the ground level and we start building up. GIS wise, it would be in ArcGIS Pro. We'll touch on some of the other GIS softwares out there, but the course will be taught in Pro. With that, there's a university site license, so all enrolled students have access to download that and use that. So there's like no additional cost for that.
And then we move into the statistics, and especially the spatial statistics components of the program. We use the software called R. R is completely free, and so there's no issues with site licenses and so forth. We get students up to speed on R, and just like some students come in with GIS background in Arc Pro, and some students come in the program with R background already, I would say less so than with the GIS software. So this is usually new to all the students, and we provide enough upfront learning in the R program package. So you'll see that in the spatial statistics classes as well as in the biostat classes.
Perfect. What is the expected time commitment for the program, and can you elaborate on what that looks like?
Yeah, we get this question every year, and it's really tough to say because I think it varies among students. Students that come on with more quantitative skills and or interest than other students. Maybe students have seen GIS previously already, so some of that stuff goes quicker for them. This is an online program. Everybody has lives and has jobs when they're coming in here, so this is the evening weekend activities, and I think somewhere on the order of 5 to 15 hours a week, but I think that varies among a lot of students, and not only does it vary between students, but I think it varies between time in the program as well. There may be weeks where you're putting in more time than less, but that's an estimate. I know it's a big range, but that's what I've seen students tell us about.
Perfect. What are some networking opportunities available to students?
Well, the discussion forum is a great place to start, like we talked about, because that's where you're meeting with other students. We've also had cohorts that have generated their own Facebook page, and then they kind of get together outside of us, outside of the instructors, which is completely fine, and they network that way. Also, there is, the online students they're not distinguished from the on-site students. So emails about seminars and other activities going on at the school are available to everybody. Now, clearly, with all the seminars that they were on site, so you'd come to lectures or you'd come to the school and you'd watch those seminars. And we have some students in the program that actually work kind of local to Baltimore. And for those who are or possibly will be, we welcome you coming to the school and meeting us in person. But for the last year, almost to the date, we've all been remote. Um, so all these seminars and all that stuff were being recorded and available online. And I'm hoping some of that continues even when we get back inside the school and inside the classroom. I hope some of the activities now still be made available remotely. But yeah, OPAL students, they're not distinguished from the on-site students in any way.
Perfect.
Frank, I would add one more element to that, is that there is a LinkedIn page for MAS in spatial analysis. And so all cohorts kind of mingle there. And I've seen professional comments made back and forth, and even job postings, posted there. But it's just another forum for when you're done with the program to stay connected with the alum in general.
Yeah, that's a great comment.
Will I be required to purchase any textbooks in the program?
Not for the spatial classes, so a lot of what Tim does is taught out of his own notes, as well as mine are. I provide some books as a reference. I can't speak to the epi and the biostat classes though. So I'm not sure about that, but that is something that we can certainly find out about and get you to the answer to that. I think it's less so in terms of purchasing books. It's not like how I remember being an undergrad. It'd be like, $300 or $400 every semester in books. I think it's far different from that.
I'm deciding between the MPH and this program. What is your advice for deciding between the two?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the MPH is a very general degree. It's Masters of Public Health. So you will touch on everything and anything public health. Although there are tracks that you could focus on, and I don't know if it's the MPH at Hopkins or elsewhere, but I know the MPH at Hopkins has specific tracks that you can focus on, but it doesn't get to the level of focus like with the spatial analysis. But the MPH program, it's going to have very similar, if not the same, epi and biostat classes, and then our program here dives right into spatial analysis and really gets you the full breadth of spatial analysis. An MPH program may have one class on spatial analysis, and so forth. And also our program, and again, I don't know if it's the MPH program at Hopkins or elsewhere that you're thinking about, but our program is guided towards or geared towards the working professional. So it's not the full-time MPH student, so it's not on site. So a lot of our stuff is like I said, it's not the read 30 pages and have an exam type course. It's very much activity based and working with your peers and so forth.
Perfect. Thank you, Frank and Tim. Looks like we've covered all the questions for today. So thank you all for your attendance. And so for our team at the admissions office, we will contact you directly in the next few days to assist you in answering any additional questions you may have about the application. If you do want to connect with someone immediately, my contact information is listed on the slide here. So please feel free to reach out via phone or email. If you are excited about this program and see this as part of your future, please feel free to use the scan codes here to move forward with your application. We do have a dedicated admissions team who is looking forward to working with each and every one of you throughout the application process. Thank you again, Frank and Tim, for your time today.
Right. I just want to add one thing, Nicole, and again, thank you everybody for your attendance. It's come up a lot in the past where students have specific questions either for Tim or myself, and the admissions office, Nicole and her group, will put you in touch with us. So if there's a need to speak with us specifically about the program to help you decide whether this is right for you or not, know that that's an option that's available to you.